Some men break loudly, their pain visible to the world. Tears, outbursts, public spirals. But others break in silence, so quietly that you won't notice until they vanished, taking a piece of the world with them. In a society obsessed with noise, the Sigma male's breakdown is deafening in its absence. He doesn't scream. He doesn't collapse in front of an audience. He doesn't even ask for help. He just disappears. Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He becomes a ghost in his own life, smiling when expected, nodding when necessary, and dying quietly behind eyes that most people call mysterious. But mystery is often just pain with good posture. Here's a disturbing fact. Psychologists say emotionally intelligent introverts are among the most overlooked when it comes to trauma recognition. Why? Because they know how to act fine better than most actors. And Sigma males? They're the top-tier performers in this tragic play. No one calls them out because everyone assumes they've got it handled. But they don't. This isn't about loneliness, heartbreak, or being misunderstood. This is about the invisible fractures, the wounds you don't see because he's mastered the art of bleeding inward. And yes, there's a truth even he won't admit out loud, not even in the mirror. If you're expecting a soft, motivational TED Talk voice, you're lost. This isn't therapy. This is an autopsy. Let's get surgical. 1. He doesn't want to be fixed. He wants to be accepted while still broken. People see his silence, his emotional distance, his intensity, and their first instinct is to diagnose him, to jump in with solutions. You just need to open up more. Maybe you should talk to someone. Have you tried being more positive? What they don't realize is that he isn't looking for a rescue mission. He isn't some emotional construction site waiting for volunteers. He's already done the rebuilding. Piece by piece, alone in the dark, he's patched up the parts that kept him functioning, stitched over what hurt too much to look at, and locked away the pieces too dangerous to share. But even now, after all the self-work, there are still fractures under the surface. Old damage that never really healed, just hardened. Maybe it looks like strength. Maybe it even looks admirable. But it's not wholeness. It's survival. When people say they want to love him, they always mean the best version of him, the evolved, grounded, calm version he shows to the world. But when the broken parts start to peek through, the detachment, the sudden silences, the emotional shutdowns, they flinch. They take it personally. They tell him he's too closed off or that he's too hard to love. That's when he checks out. Because now he sees the truth again. Most people want the illusion of depth, not the responsibility of dealing with what it actually means. He doesn't want to be anyone's project. He doesn't want someone coming into his life with tools and intentions, trying to paint over his cracks like they're flaws. What he wants, maybe more than anything, is someone who can sit next to the mess without feeling the need to rearrange it. Someone who doesn't flinch when his guard drops, who doesn't panic when he's not smiling. He doesn't need to be healed. He just needs to be seen, accepted fully, not despite the brokenness, but including it. He wants to know that love can exist without conditions, that someone can stay, not because he's easy to love, but because they don't need him to be. 2, he distrusts peace because it feels like the calm before betrayal. Peace doesn't comfort him, it unsettles him. For most people, calm means safety. Stillness means everything is okay. But for him, peace is suspicious. It's the part of the story right before everything falls apart. He's lived through too many moments where, just as things felt stable, the ground gave way. So now, when life gets quiet, his mind gets louder. He's learned that betrayal doesn't always come with warning signs. Sometimes it walks in wearing a smile. Sometimes it waits until your guard is down, until you've stopped checking the exits and started believing, maybe, just maybe, this time I can rest. That's when it strikes. So when things are going well, he doesn't celebrate. He scans. He watches for patterns. He questions the timing. Why is it calm right now? What's going to go wrong? It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition, trained by pain. Peace starts to feel less like a gift and more like bait. This is the wound no one sees because he hides it behind logic and control. He'll say he's just being cautious or that he doesn't want to be naive. But deep down, he's terrified that ease is a lie, that quiet moments are a setup, that the very thing that feels safe will end up breaking him. He may laugh, he may act normal, but his body is already bracing. Even when there's nothing visibly wrong, he doesn't know how to fully relax anymore. Not because he doesn't want to, but because last time he did, someone he trusted turned the lights off and left him standing alone in the dark. This kind of distrust doesn't show up as anger. It shows up as hesitation, as delayed joy, as holding back affection even when he wants to give it. He's not cold. He's protecting himself from what calm used to cost him. And the sad truth is, until someone shows him peace that stays, he'll keep preparing for the storm, even on the sunniest days. 3. He secretly resents how much he knows about people. He never asked for the ability to read people like open books, but now he can't turn it off. In every conversation, every glance, every offhand comment, he picks up things others miss. The lie behind the smile, the insecurity buried beneath confidence, the silent rivalry hiding behind friendly words. It's like his brain is always scanning, always analyzing, always 2 steps ahead in reading intentions, motives, and unspoken truths. And while that makes him perceptive, even insightful, it also makes him tired. Deeply, silently tired. He sees too much. The fake charm, the rehearsed empathy, the little manipulations people wrap in good intentions. He knows when someone's being kind because they care and when it's just a strategy. He can tell when someone's saying, "I'm fine," and drowning inside. The problem? Once you learn how to hear the things people don't say, you can't unhear them. And that level of awareness comes at a cost. He walks through life constantly decoding others, but no one ever really decodes him. And it's lonely, not because he wants to be admired for his intuition, but because he's tired of relationships feeling like puzzles he has to solve. He's tired of filtering through the noise to find the truth. He's tired of being right about people and disappointed every time he is. What he secretly craves is simplicity. Not because he's simple, but because he's exhausted. He wants to meet someone who says what they mean and means what they say. Someone who doesn't hide their need behind pride, their jealousy behind praise, or their intentions behind performance. He wants raw, real, unfiltered, not perfect, just honest. But people like that are rare. So he keeps scanning, keeps protecting himself with distance, keeps reading between the lines, even when he wishes there were no lines at all. And the saddest part? Most people will never know that behind his sharp intuition is a man silently begging, "Please don't make me figure you out. Just be real with me." 4. He feels romantic attraction as a threat to his freedom. Romantic attraction doesn't excite him the way it used to. It rattles him. Even when the connection feels real, even when the person seems genuine, a quiet alarm starts ringing in the back of his mind. He doesn't show it, but he feels it. A subtle tension that creeps in the moment feelings get too close. To him, love doesn't just mean closeness. It means exposure, vulnerability, accountability, and worst of all, the possibility of losing his freedom. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Love has strings, even invisible kind. And in his experience, those strings have a way of tightening over time, slowly turning affection into expectation and warmth into weight. So when someone shows real interest in him, he starts analyzing, not because he doesn't care, but because he's trying to figure out where the shift will happen. When will the casual questions turn into constant check-ins? When will shared moments become obligations? When will his alone time become a problem, not a personality trait? It's not about arrogance or being afraid of commitment. It's about survival. Somewhere in his past, love turned on him. Maybe it started pure, but ended possessive. Maybe someone said, "I love you," then tried to own him with it. Whatever happened, it left a mark. So now, even when someone touches his heart, his trauma whispers, "Be careful." This is how it begins. Intimacy starts to feel like a trap door, charming on the surface, but ready to open the second he lets his guard down. He might laugh with you, share deep things, even let you into his space. But part of him stays halfway out the door, not because he's playing games, but because he doesn't know if this is connection or a setup. He wants love. He really does. But he wants it without the cage, without the slow erosion of his identity, without the pressure to explain why he needs space or why he won't always say everything he feels. He's not trying to run. He just wants to know he can stay without losing himself. And until that feels possible, even the strongest connection will make him flinch. 5. He feels guilt for being unreachable. Even though he needs to be, he knows he's hard to reach. He knows people feel shut out, confused, even hurt by his emotional distance. And he hates that. It bothers him more than anyone realizes. But what most don't understand is that being distant isn't about arrogance or apathy. It's about survival. There's a reason the door to his inner world is locked. It's not pride, it's protection. Every time he's opened up in the past, it hasn't just cost him peace, it's left scars. The wrong person with the right access can do permanent damage, and he's lived that. He's trusted people who turned his vulnerability into leverage. He's been open, only to watch someone twist his honesty into ammunition. So now he keeps the gate shut, not because he doesn't feel, but because he feels too deeply. And yet, even with that knowledge, he carries guilt. He sees how people try to connect with him and end up frustrated. He notices when someone gives up, when someone says, "You're too closed off. I never know what you're really thinking." He hears it all, and he internalizes it. Not because he thinks they're wrong, but because part of him agrees. He wishes he could let people in more easily. He wishes he could trust without hesitation. But he's wired himself to survive, not to be understood. So he lives in this strange contradiction, craving connection but fearing the cost, wanting to be known but terrified of what knowing him might do to both him and the person trying. This isn't about drama. It's not about playing the tortured soul. It's about walking through life with the constant weight of knowing your own emotional boundaries are misunderstood and having no way to explain them without sounding cold. He stays behind the walls not because he wants to be alone, but because he's not sure if anyone's willing to meet him where he is without demanding he change. So he carries the guilt in silence, not because he's unreachable, but because getting too close has always come with a price he's no longer willing to pay. 6. He doesn't cry, he dissociates. He doesn't cry, not because he doesn't feel, but because somewhere along the line, his mind rewired itself to protect him differently. When pain hits, his body doesn't release. It retreats. Instead of tears, there's a sudden stillness, a disconnect. His face goes neutral. His voice flattens. And inside, it's like a switch flips. He's there, but not really. This isn't strength. It's survival. It's what happens when you've spent too long being told. Man up. Don't be weak. Stop overreacting. After a while, his system stopped trying to express pain and just started shutting down. It's not because he wants to be numb. It's because feeling everything at full volume would drown him. So he learned how to mute the signal, not control it, cut it off entirely. In moments where most people would break down, he vanishes, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He becomes this quiet shell of himself. Not dramatic, not violent, just gone. You could be talking to him and he'll nod, maybe even smile politely, but he's not in the room anymore. His thoughts are miles away, staring at nothing, floating in a fog that keeps him from falling apart. And it's scary, even for him, because while crying is human and cathartic, dissociation feels like decay in slow motion. It's losing touch with yourself in real time. It's watching people care, watching life move, and feeling like you're behind a pane of glass, untouchable, unreachable, frozen. People don't notice it right away because it doesn't look like a breakdown. There's no shouting, no tears, no meltdown. But it's more dangerous than any outburst because the damage isn't loud. It's silent, and silence is harder to heal. What most won't realize is this. Dissociation isn't his coping mechanism by choice. It's a trauma reflex. It's the body's way of saying, this is too much, so we're checking out now. And the longer he goes without being able to truly feel without fear, the more he detaches, not just from others, but from himself. He doesn't cry because crying requires trust. And trust for him is a door that doesn't open easily, especially when the world has shown him that vulnerability comes with a price he's no longer willing to pay. 7. He overanalyzes his past until it feels like a movie he never starred in. He doesn't just look back, he gets stuck there. His mind replays scenes from his past like an overworked director stuck in post-production, constantly editing, cutting, rewriting, obsessing over moments that can't be changed. Conversations, missed signs, words he wishes he hadn't said, or worse, the ones he never had the courage to say at all. He thinks about the people he let in, the ones he pushed away, the trust he gave too quickly, and the loyalty he withheld too long. Every moment becomes a decision to dissect. Every silence becomes a sentence he should have spoken. It's not just memory, it's mental time travel. But the catch? He never arrives anywhere new. He just loops. And what makes it more brutal is how detached it all starts to feel. Like the past is a movie he watched too many times. He remembers the pain, the joy, the betrayal, but it doesn't feel like his life anymore. It's like watching someone who looked like him, sounded like him, but didn't have the knowledge he has now. And the regret hits twice as hard, because he knows better now, but he can't do anything about then. This isn't harmless overthinking. This is self-interrogation at a forensic level. He scrutinizes every version of himself, trying to figure out where things went wrong, who he could have been if he'd acted sooner, left earlier, stayed longer, or just been a little more awake in the moments that mattered. It becomes a loop he can't break. And the irony? While everyone thinks of him as a guy who lives in the present or moves in silence, his mind is often stuck in a frame-by-frame rerun of old scenes he can't stop directing. Not because he loves the past, but because part of him still believes that if he understands it deeply enough, he might finally make peace with it. But peace doesn't come from perfect edits, and he knows that. Still, every night when the world goes quiet, the reel starts playing again, and he becomes a silent witness to a life he's still trying to make sense of. 8. He's tired of being the wise one with no one to turn to. He's the one people turn to when things fall apart. The calm voice in chaos. The one who always has the answers. Friends call him when they're lost. Co-workers ask him for clarity. Even strangers seem to open up to him, sensing that quiet steadiness, that sharp insight, that comforting silence that says, "You're safe here," and he offers it every time, thoughtfully, patiently, not because he has to, but because it's in his nature. He's built to observe, to analyze, to understand the chaos beneath people's calm and help them make sense of it. He doesn't just give advice. He feels where people are coming from. He becomes their emotional compass. But here's what no one ever asks. What happens when the compass is lost? What happens when he's the one unraveling? That's the part no one sees. When he breaks, it happens quietly, not because he's hiding, but because there's no one there. He's been cast so deeply into the role of the strong one, the wise one, the calm one, that people forget he's human. They assume he's always okay, because he looks okay. And if he's not, they assume he'll figure out. He always does. But the truth is he's drowning silently. He's exhausted from holding everyone else together while quietly falling apart himself. He doesn't resent the people who lean on him, but he does start to feel invisible inside their alliance. Because what they really want is his strength, not his struggle. And the rare times he tries to open up, he gets blank stares, shallow replies, or worse, advice. Not real support, not presence. Just surface-level sympathy that makes him feel even more alone. So he retreats again, back into silence, back into self-repair. He's a lighthouse, steady, guiding others through their storms. But no one stops to ask if the lighthouse itself is cracking, if the light is flickering, if the foundation is wearing thin. And that's the wound he carries. Being needed, but never nurtured. Being everyone's anchor, but no one's harbor. Being the wise one in a world that forgets wisdom doesn't mean invincibility. 9. He masks pain with productivity, but nothing ever feels finished. He looks driven, focused, always working on something, starting a new project, perfecting a craft, chasing the next idea like it's life or death. To outsiders, it seems like ambition, discipline, even inspiration. But if you look closer, it's not hunger, it's hurt. He doesn't work to achieve. He works to escape. Every task, every goal, every sleepless night buried in effort is his way of outrunning something heavier. The ache he can't explain, the emotions he won't let surface, the memories that still sting even when he tries to ignore them. He's not chasing success. He's staying ahead of pain. Productivity becomes his anesthesia. If he's moving, he doesn't have to feel. If he's building, there's no room for breaking. So he throws himself into motion, Not because he believes in the finish line, but because stopping feels like death. Stillness means silence, and silence means hearing the part of himself he's been avoiding. The irony? Even when he finishes something, there's no real satisfaction, no deep sense of pride or peace, just a brief pause before the next wave of restlessness hits. The work might be done, but he's not. Nothing ever feels complete, because a real wound can't be fixed by effort. And deep down, he knows that. But stopping, letting the feelings catch up to him, that's dangerous. That's when the darkness gets loud. That's when the questions start. So he builds, writes, creates, learns. Anything that feels like forward motion. Anything that feels like control in a world where emotions can't be tamed. People admire his work ethic, his self-discipline. They call him productive, focused, a machine. But no one asks why he's always busy. No one sees a man behind the output, the one trying to stitch a bleeding soul with a thread of endless achievement. He's not trying to be better. He's trying not to fall apart. But no matter how much he finishes, the real work, the emotional work, still sits untouched, quietly waiting behind the noise, asking the one question he keeps ignoring. When will you stop building and start healing? 10. He internalizes rejection as a fault in his design, not a circumstance. When he gets rejected, romantically, socially, emotionally, he doesn't shrug it off like most people. He doesn't tell himself it wasn't meant to be, or they just didn't see my worth. That would be too easy, too detached. No, he takes it personally, deeply, quietly. To the broken Sigma male, rejection doesn't feel like a missed opportunity. It feels like confirmation that something in him is fundamentally off, that he's not built for connection the way others are, that maybe all those years of being the outlier, the observer, the lone wolf weren't choices. They were symptoms, evidence, a warning label that no one else can read. But he feels every time someone walks away. He doesn't see rejection as about timing or chemistry or compatibility. He sees it as a diagnosis, a red stamp on the soul that says, not suitable for love. And because he's already hyper-aware, already analytical, already a chronic overthinker, he starts going over every interaction like it's a crime scene. What did I say wrong? Was I too distant? Too intense? Too much of myself? Or worse, not enough? This self-analysis doesn't lead to healing. It leads to quiet self-sabotage. He begins withdrawing even more. He tells himself he's better off alone, but deep down, he doesn't believe that. It's just the safest narrative to live in when the alternative is feeling like he's inherently unlovable. People around him might try to reassure him. You're just unique. You haven't met the right person yet. Don't change for anyone. But those words bounce off him because his wound isn't surface level. It's built into the foundation. It's not that he doubts his value. It's that he doubts his fit. Like he was made for a different world. One where connection doesn't require shape-shifting or self-erasure. And so, rejection doesn't just sting. It corrodes. It doesn't just bruise his ego. It rewires his internal map of belonging. Each no becomes proof that what he offers, his depth, his silence, his intensity, isn't what people want. Not because it's bad, because it's alien. And that's a wow, no compliment, no pep talk, and no rebound can truly reach. 11. He's obsessed with self-healing, but secretly doesn't believe in redemption. He talks about healing. He reads the books, listens to the podcasts, journals in silence, retreats into nature, all in the name of getting better. From the outside, it looks admirable, focused, enlightened. But behind the rituals, behind the solitude and stillness, there's a darker truth he never says out loud. He doesn't actually believe he can be fully fixed. Not anymore. At some point, the damage became part of him. Not just something that happened to him, but something that changed him. And while he goes through the motions of self-healing therapy, reflection, boundaries, breathing, detachment, deep down, he's not doing it with hope. He's doing it for control. He doesn't want to fall apart again. He doesn't want to be a burden. He doesn't want the chaos inside him to leak out onto others. So he self-heals not to be whole, but to be useful, to stay stable enough to move through life without collapsing or hurting anyone along the way. Because in his mind, redemption, the full restoration of peace, joy, trust, vulnerability, isn't for people like him. That kind of freedom feels reserved for the naive, the unscarred, the ones who haven't seen the darker corners of life up close. He knows too much. He's felt too deeply. He's lost too hard. So instead of believing he can heal, he settles for managing the damage. He fine-tunes the wreckage, polishes the broken parts. He becomes high-functioning with invisible wounds. He's not trying to erase the pain. He's just trying to outsmart it. And it shows. He's the guy who gives advice on growth, but rarely takes his own medicine. He speaks in lessons, not confessions. He guides others through their storms, but builds his own shelter out of silence and structure. He doesn't want pity. He doesn't want saving. He just wants to keep operating. Quietly, efficiently, on his terms. Because while the world romanticizes healing, he's living the part no one talks about. The space where you're doing everything right and still don't believe you'll ever feel whole again. 12. He believes his darkness is too sharp to share. He doesn't hide his darkness out of shame. He hides it out of mercy. Not because he's trying to be mysterious or unreachable, but because the things he's carried, the real things, aren't soft, aren't cinematic, and definitely aren't the kind of pain people like to romanticize. His trauma isn't beautiful. It's not wrapped in inspirational quotes or filtered through quiet tears and soft piano music. It's raw. It's violent. It's full of moments that still make his stomach twist when he thinks too long. He's not afraid people will judge him for his past. He's afraid they'll see it and freeze. Not because they're cruel, but because some truths are too heavy to hold when you haven't lived them. He knows how most people respond to vulnerability. With discomfort, with distance, or worst of all, with pity. And he doesn't want any of that. He doesn't want someone to look at him differently. He doesn't want soft eyes and careful words. He doesn't want someone trying to fix him, or worse, trying to save him. Because what lives inside him isn't a story. It's a scar that still burns. It's not just the things that happened to him. It's what those things made of him. The instincts he developed, the walls he built, the silence he weaponized. And even though he's learned how to function, how to succeed, how to blend in, he still believes that if someone truly saw everything, they'd walk away. And honestly, he wouldn't blame them. So he keeps it hidden. He smiles when he has to. He shows just enough of his depth to be real, but never enough to scare anyone. Because the truth is, he's not protecting himself from rejection. He's protecting them from a version of him that was built in the fire. He believes his darkness isn't poetic. It's dangerous. Not because he's evil, but because he knows how deep it goes. And the scariest part, he's made peace with it, which makes it even harder to believe someone else ever could. Final thoughts. The broken Sigma male is not a man in pieces. He's a man who refused to shatter. The broken Sigma male is not a man in pieces. He's a man who refused to shatter. So he restructured himself in silence. His wounds aren't loud. They're buried deep beneath discipline, distance, and a demeanor so composed it convinces the world he's fine. But behind that calm is a battlefield, quiet, scorched, and constantly monitored for intruders. He's not looking for sympathy. He's not waiting to be rescued. What he needs, what few ever offer, is understanding without intrusion, closeness without control, presence without pressure, because he's tried healing. He's tried disappearing. He's tried productivity, detachment, wisdom, and even love. But nothing sticks for long, because the real war isn't between him and the world. It's between who he had to become and the man he still wants to be. If only he believed he deserved peace. So if you ever meet a Sigma like this, don't try to fix him. Don't ask him to open up like it's easy. And for God's sake, don't mistake his silence for emptiness. That silence is a fortress, built with reasons, not walls. See him without solving him. Stay without softening him. And maybe, just maybe, he'll let you see the parts even he hasn't looked at in years. Because beneath all the wounds, all the brilliance, all the quiet rage, there's a heart that still wants to believe in connection. Not the kind that demands performance, but the kind that accepts the man as is, fractures, shadows, and all. Do you resonate with the ideas I shared in this video? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in more content about Sigma males, explore the other videos on this channel. Thanks for watching.